Oh, hello, ladies and gentlemen. I got a bunch of comedy dates coming up. JoeRogan.net/tour. Big one, May 12th at the Verizon Wireless in Grand Prairie, Texas. And that one is with Tony Hinchcliffe and Ian Edwards. And then July 7th at the Ka Theater, the MGM in Las Vegas, Nevada. Everything else will be up soon. It's all at JoeRogan.net/tour. If I seem a little low energy, a little NPR right now, a little mellow, it's you'll understand after you listen to the second podcast today. We did two podcasts today. One with Ron Miscavige, who's David Miscavige's dad. Miscavige? David Miscavige's dad, who's the guy who runs Scientology. And the other one with Brennan Schaub and Eddie Bravo. And that one went off the rails and into the woods. But we'll get to that in a minute. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by LegalZoom. LegalZoom is a service that allows you to do all sorts of legal shit online, like you can start a nonprofit, you can start a corporation or an LLC. You can use LegalZoom to do it. And LegalZoom is not a law firm, so you don't pay online in an hourly way. You pay a one-time fee. It's all there on LegalZoom. Transparency, upfront pricing, customer reviews, and a satisfaction guarantee. LegalZoom is not a law firm, but they have a network of independent attorneys who can review contracts, help with employment laws, and advise you on the many hurdles that pop up when you run a business. LegalZoom is awesome for all kinds of different things, folks. You can check it out, and there's no surprises. They provide complete transparency, and you can see how LegalZoom can make life better for you and your business today. If you go to LegalZoom.com and use the code Rogan at checkout for some special savings. That's LegalZoom.com and use the code word Rogan. Oh, shit. We're also brought to you each and every episode by Onnit.com. ONNIT. Onnit is a total human optimization company. It's a company whose main goal is to provide people with the tools, the inspiration, and the information to get your shit together, to take it to the next level. Whether it's through strength and conditioning programs like Keith Weber's extreme kettlebell cardio workout. That's one of the best cardio workouts you're ever going to do, ladies and gentlemen. And you could bust your ass with one single 35-pound kettlebell. We have those DVDs. He has a whole series of them. Keith Weber has also been on the podcast in the past. If you want to go back into the archives and find that, it's pretty dope. And he's a really, really interesting guy and very, very knowledgeable. And his kettlebell cardio workout fitness DVD, if you go to the fitness DVDs, he's got a series of them, and they're fucking brutal. Where is it here? Extreme Kettlebell 3. Fuck that one. Fuck all of them. Fuck 2, too. Fuck 1. They're all hard. They're brutal. I mean, fuck you in a good way. But we also have strength and conditioning equipment in the form of the best kettlebells you could buy with perfect shaped handles. I like the big gaps of the regular kettlebells, but I like the artistic quality of the legend bells and the primal bells and the zombie bells. We have these kettlebells that are made out of cast iron, 3D balanced, but they're made in all these different cool shapes. The primal bells are all the great apes. Like the gorilla, we have an orangutan. We even have a Bigfoot, 90-pound Bigfoot. That one's my dog. It's a great way to work out, and it's also a piece of functional art that will literally last forever. The legend bells, there's a werewolf, a cyclops, and a harpy, and then there's a series of zombies. All sorts of different weights, and plus we have regular kettlebells, and we also have steel clubs, steel maces, all things that promote functional strength, things like sandbags and ab wheels, things that give you strength that you can apply to athletics and even just to everyday life. Just feels good to be stronger. Oh, shit. We also have an Onnit Academy. That's a big part of what Onnit is. If you click on the Onnit Academy link, you're taken to a section of the website that is one of my favorite places on the internet because it's filled with all sorts of awesome workouts like different kettlebell workouts, different workouts for different body parts, different workouts for endurance, guides, nutrition guides, diet guides, articles on exercise physiology, and there's a lot of motivational stuff and some Q&As. There's a cool one up right now with Cub Swanson, who is headlining the UFC this weekend against Artem Lobov. This ad's too long. But anyway, Onnit.com, there's an Onnit Academy. The Onnit Academy in Austin, Texas has 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, and it also has Bang Muay Thai. So get your shit together and go there. Awesome workout facility. And use the code word Rogan at Onnit.com, and you'll save 10% off any and all supplements. Oh. We're also brought to you by Audible, the internet's leading provider of audio entertainment with an unparalleled collection of amazing audiobooks. May I suggest my pal Bert Kreischer's The Life of the Party? Or may I suggest Sam Harris's Waking Up? Or Lawrence Krauss, who was on last month. I am listening at the same time to his book, The Greatest Story Ever Told So Far, and he narrates it on audible.com/Joe. If you go there, you will get a free 30-day trial. Ooh-wee. Audible.com is a fantastic service, folks. I am a huge fan of audiobooks. And if you are and you don't know about Audible.com, oh, you silly fool, please go. Please go to audible.com/Joe to get a free audiobook and a 30-day trial. Audible, it's really awesome having them as a sponsor as well, because Audible has always been a big supporter of stand-up comedians, and they even had a thing for a while that they're doing where comics would do like a fresh new 5 minutes every week. It was pretty interesting. But audible.com/Joe, go there, free audiobook and a 30-day trial, and I'm telling you, an insane collection of amazing audiobooks, just every single subject, every topic, every genre. Audible.com/Joe. Okay. My guest today reached out to me. I had my friend Leah Remini on the podcast, who used to be a big-time Scientologist and then decided to quit the organization and do a television show about it, and I wanted to talk to her about it. I'm fascinated. And so I got this email saying that David Miscavige, who's the head dude at Scientology, that his dad wanted to come on the show. I'm like, what? And then I'm like, is his dad mad at me? I thought his dad was going to, my son's religion is not bullshit, you fucking punk, and knock my teeth in. He's a Marine and shit. Actually, he left. He left the organization a few years back in 2012, and he wrote a book about it. So he wants to come on and talk about it. Well, so then my publicist gets this email from the folks at Scientology that are basically explaining that they have a retort to his book, and they have a website. So I feel like, especially since this is the second podcast about Scientology, and I got that email, I'm like, they didn't threaten me in any way, shape, or form. They were very reasonable about it. Reasonable? I'll say it again. They were very reasonable about it. But I felt like, at the very least, I should put up their URL. So that's why I did that. In the beginning of the podcast, I told him, I'm saying, like, let me just get out of the way. Just let me say what Scientology is saying about you when they knew that you were coming on, and then let's just talk about this thing. Look, it's a fucked up story, folks. It's always a fucked up story when a father and a son don't communicate anymore. And when the father writes a book about the son. And then there's the Scientology part of it. So without further ado, please welcome Ron Miscavige.
Joe Rogan Podcast, check it out.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan Podcast by night, all day.
And we're live. What's up, Ron? How are you?
I'm doing okay. How
doing
about
all right?
you? Yeah,
doing good, man.
So this quick start. I came in here 10 seconds ago. We're on the air.
I know. Well, I wanted it to be that way. It's more natural. Sometimes, like, some of the best stuff gets said off mic, so we figured now how to do it where people get in, and pretty much as soon as we sit down, we start talking.
No complaints.
So you contacted us after the Leah Remini interview,
right?
And you wanted to get on, and you have this book that you wrote. It's called Ruthless. What's the correct pronunciation? It's Miscavige?
No, Miscavige.
Miscavige.
Yeah, the actual name of the book is Ruthless.
Right.
Scientology, My Son David Miscavige and Me.
Right. Now let me just say this before we get started, because Scientology, this is the first time I've ever been contacted. They sent an email to my publicist, and they have a rebuttal to what you wrote, and their rebuttal is at a website, ronmiscavigebook.com. And they want people to know about their website, which is Scientology.org, and they have a statement. This is their statement. Ron Miscavige is seeking to make money on the name of his famous son, David Miscavige. David Miscavige has taken care of his father throughout his life, both financially and by helping him in even the most dire circumstances. Ron Miscavige was nowhere around when David Miscavige ascended to the leadership of the Church of Scientology, mentioned by and working directly with the religion's founder, L. Ron Hubbard, and entrusted by him with the future of the church. Any father exploiting his son in this manner is a sad exercise in betrayal. Mr. David Miscavige's far-reaching vision and unrelenting dedication has brought the Church of Scientology to where it is today, guaranteeing its future for generations to come. Scientologists worldwide love and respect Mr. Miscavige for his tireless work on behalf of their religion. So that's their statement. That's what they wanted to say. And I feel like it's only fair. You know, we had Leah Remini on, and we have you on, and I've had Louis Theroux on.
Right.
And look, I feel like, I don't know the story, but anytime a father is so disconnected from his son, they have to write a book about him. It's a sad time. Do you feel like that?
No.
You don't feel sad at all?
I don't feel that I just woke up one day and said, I'd like to write a book about Scientology.
Right.
And if I can give you a short encapsulated statement, I think we could set a nice groundwork for the whole interview. You mind if I do that?
Sure.
Okay. I was a Scientologist for 42 years.
Were you raised in it?
No, I got my family in 1970. But I was in the church for 42 years. The last 26 and a half years, I worked at the international base in Hemet, California. I escaped from that base on March 25th, 2012.
You escaped?
Escaped. That's right. I had to plan that escape for 6 months. We can go into this in more detail, but just let me give you the short story.
Okay.
About a year and a half later, there was a private investigator caught by the name of Dwayne Powell, who was around the corner from my house, looking at a house to buy so he could spy on me from that house. And this is no shit. So a lady in the neighborhood saw him, and she thought he was a drug dealer or up to no good. So she called the West Dallas police, and Nick Pye came out and confronted the guy. He gave Nick some shit, and Nick said, hey, listen, man, you're under arrest. Do you mind if I look in your car? So Nick went to the van and opened it up, and in a trunk, there were 5 license plates from 5 different states. There were 2 handguns, a stun gun, 2 rifles, one fitted up with a silencer, and 2,000 rounds of ammunition. So they arrested the guy. They took him in for interrogation, and then his son came looking for him because his son was a partner in this business. The father's name was Dwayne Powell, and the son was Daniel Powell. Daniel came looking for his father. And by the way, if you want to hear these interviews, they're on Tony Ortega's website. Tony Ortega, the Underground Bunker. You can hear what I'm telling you.
Okay.
So Daniel is telling me, how they operated. They were getting paid $10,000 a week to follow me and report on my doings from 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock every night. An incident happened in Janesville, Wisconsin.
It's kind of fun. What do you do? Like, what could you possibly do that'd be worth studying? Is it just to freak you out? Like, that's what I don't understand. Like, if I follow Jamie, you know what I'm going to get? I'm going to get Jamie looking at the internet, Jamie watching basketball, maybe Jamie goes to the gym, maybe Jamie goes for a run, maybe Jamie goes on Tinder and does a little right, swiping right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay,
what
but
do people
I'm
do
telling
that you could get out of watching them? It's not like you're out there burying bodies.
No kidding. Anyway, let me continue because this goes on. So they're interrogating them. That's
right.
Nick Pye, and there was an alcohol, tobacco, and firearms agent, Ricky Hankins.
Right.
And because they were concerned about that silencer, they thought, hey, maybe they're out to hit me.
Right.
Because I am the father of the chairman of the board.
Right.
So then Daniel, the son, is being interrogated, and he said They followed me to a town called Janesville, Wisconsin, where I went shopping in an Aldi's grocery store.
Okay.
This
is very detailed.
Well, I'm telling you, this is what happened. So I come out and I had bags of grocery, and it was the summertime, so I had a pocket T-shirt on. I bent over to put the groceries in the car. I thought my cell phone was going to fall out. I grabbed my left chest. They're looking at me in the van, which they had been following me in. They saw me. The father called his contact and said, listen, it looks like the target is having a heart attack. What shall we do? They referred to me as the target. All right.
Oh, Jesus.
No shit. They got a silencer and fucking 2,000 rounds of ammo. All right.
Okay.
So they called. The guy, Greg, said, listen, let me call you back. A couple minutes later, a guy come on the phone, identified himself as David Miscavige, and he said to them, listen, if it's his time to die, let him die. Don't do anything. Don't intervene. That's my son. All right.
Well, it didn't just happen, right? I mean, you didn't, I don't want to interrupt your story because I feel like it goes on. But I mean, your relationship with your son didn't just start there. So it had to go sour.
No shit.
Right?
Listen, my relationship with David when he was a kid was incredible. I mean, we got along great. He was a snappy little kid. He was just very bright, great sense of humor. I enjoyed his company. But as he grew older, as he got into Scientology, which I got him in, by the way, and I can get into that, how I got him in, he then started acquiring power. And I think he went from Dr. Jekyll into Mr. Hyde. As an example, when I worked on staff, he never referred to me as Dad. He called me Ron. The base that I lived on in Hammett, it got to the point where if you wanted to send a letter to somebody, you had to write the letter, put it in an unsealed envelope. The security guards would read it, see if there was anything bad in there that I shouldn't be saying, send it back, and I would correct it. When it was okay, then they'd seal the envelope and send it out. If I wanted to call somebody on a telephone, I had to have somebody listening on the other extension.
And this is by his orders? Or is this just how Scientology runs?
No, it's not how Scientology works. He is the undisputed dictator of Scientology. So this is his entire doing. That's the way he wanted it to run. Scientology in 1970, when I got in, was totally different than
how was it then?
It was like for a free spirit, just
right.
Very laissez-faire, but you did courses. You could come in and do things that would actually improve your ability to communicate, to have better interpersonal relations.
I bought the book. I bought Dianetics in 1994 because I moved to California and I was really into self-help books and stuff like that. And I saw one of those late-night infomercial ads.
Yeah.
And I was like, this looks like, the reactive mind. Hey, I want to have control of the reactive mind. And, I got into it and I read it a little bit and I was like, probably some good principles in here, some decent ideas. And I always associated Scientologists with being positive people that got a lot of things done.
That's a very true statement. And I'm telling you, at what they call the bottom of the bridge, because the entire Scientology experience would be a bridge to total freedom. Mm-hmm. You enter in at a certain point, you're given basic things, basic courses, basic communication skills that you're taught. And I'm telling you, you go out on the street after you do this stuff, and you're more effective in handling life.
So the early stages of it, you feel,
absolutely.
very effective.
They're very effective. I mean, they were effective then, they're effective today. Mm-hmm. If you learn the proper communication formula, that will improve your life alone.
Sure.
Just communicating correctly. Knowing there's parts of it. It's not just, hey, you. And the other guy says, what do you want? There's literally get the other person's attention, make sure you're giving him a communication that he can understand. You're not going to talk to somebody in French if he's English, just all little details that you learn and you drill these. And then there's other things about interpersonal relationships with your wife or a group. You learn these, you're better off.
So they're essentially telling you how to be a better person in the beginning.
Yes, and part of that, you would then also become more positive, just simply by having these skills.
Well, this sounds good.
It is good.
Right? So where does it go bad?
Well, here's where it goes bad. Look, the further on you get in, let me back up a second. Let's say you learn the component parts of communication.
Uh-huh.
And you say, hey, you know what? This is good shit.
Right.
You agree to that. That's the first step on taking you on this entire journey. And then maybe you learn how you could divide your business into 7 parts so that you could monitor various parts of it, or your life into 7 parts so you could manage how you're doing income-wise, how education is, your public relations. These are all things you can easily agree to. So now, a little later on, there's a datum or a fact introduced that doesn't quite make sense to you. But you think, you know what? Everything they told me was good so far. I'm just going to accept this. Now you're on the road.
Can you give me an example? Like, is it like Xenu type shit?
Well, yeah, that would be a big example.
But that's way down the line, right?
That's way down the line.
But there's some early wackiness that give you like indications that things might be getting
I'm
a
going
little
to tell you something. You know,
fictional.
I think you're right. I think that's the one where you've agreed to so many things so far, and all of the auditing you've gotten that's helped you. When it comes to that, as an example, when I got on that level, I thought, well, wait a minute. There's 150 billion people on 76 nearby planets. And they brought them here in spaceships. How the fuck did they get everybody here? Right. I looked at it from
physics point of view. Yeah.
From a point of view of logistics.
Right, it's a lot of spaceships.
But I thought, well, I'll accept it. I'll just do it.
150 billion people
per planet. That was the problem. Was overpopulation. All right.
Oh.
But do you see what I'm saying? So at that point, you've agreed to so many things that were right.
Right. I understand.
When it comes up to that, you're not going to say, hey, you're out of your goddamn mind.
So it's helping you, give you a direction in life. It's making you more positive. It's giving you better communication skills. You have a structure that you can follow when you communicate with people.
Yeah.
It makes you more presentable. So everything's good in the beginning.
Yeah.
Why doesn't somebody just take that part and just, like, get rid of the rest?
Listen, I tell in my book what we're looking at right here. You know, Ruthless Scientology, My Son David Miscavige and Me. I say at the very end, if they were to just to stick to the beginning things, number 1 and number 2, have a general amnesty where they forgive everybody who they think has tried to done them in. The shit's going to hit the fan, but maybe at the end of it, you'd get some people back and knock off the disconnection policy. I think if they did that, it could be one of the best self-help groups ever. But once you get up into those upper levels where they tell you you're going to become a superhuman, as an example, you will be able to, as a spiritual being, leave your body and go some other place, as an example, and read a newspaper in Germany.
Huh. Isn't that like remote viewing?
Yes, and I'm going to tell you, Joe, I was involved for 42 years.
You never went to Germany?
No.
Never left
France
your body?
and Portugal, but you know what the fuck. You know, no, seriously though.
Right.
I never met one person that ever achieved that, nor did I achieve it. But you don't talk about it.
I understand.
One of the things they say, you don't talk about your case to somebody else. So that's compartmentalized. So everybody who's done this is thinking, I never got it, but maybe I'm the only one.
Right. So like maybe if I just keep working at this, one day I'm going to pop through.
That's exactly it. And you keep on going for the next level.
Do they explain how you're going to do that? Is it through meditation techniques? Is it through some sort of hypnosis? Like how are they supposed to go to Germany and read a newspaper?
Well,
out of their body.
There's drills that they have you do, like in the earlier, what they call OT levels, operating Thetan. Thetan is a word they use for spiritual being.
Right.
All right. And one of the drills that you would do would be spot 3 objects outside of your body, spot 3 objects inside your body, spot 3 objects outside your body, spot 3 objects inside your body on a repetitive basis. And that's supposed to let you out.
So is that
as an example?
So it's like a meditation. So
I guess it would be.
When you say spot, are you saying like envision?
Well, I mean, in the physical universe, you can
so you
look at 3
like
spots.
That, like that clock, this book, like that kind of thing.
3 of them.
And then inside your body, just think
you'd envision 3 spots
your
in your
lungs,
body.
your ribs.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then the other thing is, like when you get to OT3 and you're talking about body thetans, these are the alien beings that were brought here, put on a nearby volcano, and a hydrogen bomb was set off, and they sent up a ray, grabbed these people. Look at. You can look on the internet and find this out.
I've read it all.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And what happens then is they are all latched to your body like a bunch of fleas.
Damn it.
And they're affecting your thinking.
Right.
And your personality. And the idea on these upper levels is to get rid of all of them and achieve this Nobody's ever done it. Like, if there were 3 people who did it, I'd say, yeah, maybe it can be
Right.
done. Not a fucking one. Excuse my French, buddy.
No, you can swear away.
Okay.
This
Listen,
is
I
Al
got
Gore's
my
internet.
doctorate degree in swearing in the United States Marine Corps, but,
So how did you go from that to this? How do you go from the Marine Corps, which is about as real as it gets, to this?
well,
You just looking to improve yourself? Like,
yes, I was always listen, as a little kid in Mount Carmel, Pennsylvania, where I was born and raised, I used to go up in our garret, or the attic, whatever you want to call it, and my dad had all these books there, and I used to take books off the shelf and read them and try to find out about life. I was always looking for something, and always looking to improve myself or find a better way to live. And I had a friend back in the 60s, Nelson Sandy. I'm a musician, too. I don't know whether you knew that.
no, I didn't.
Yeah, I played professionally my whole life. Nelson Sandy, and I also been in the sales business because I had 4 kids. You got to pay the bills no matter what you do. So Nelson was a friend of mine in sales, and one day he said to me, Ron, how would you like to make an extra $100,000 a year? I said, what the hell, Great. So he introduced me to something called Holiday Magic. It was a multi-marketing scheme.
Oh,
all right.
okay.
You know what I mean by like
pyramid
Amway,
scheme.
right?
Yeah,
So what scheme?
pyramid scheme, right?
Pyramid, yeah.
Yeah.
So I went to an opportunity meeting, and I thought, maybe I could do this. So I bought in, and I started doing it. And one day we're at an opportunity meeting that we were running. And there's a girl standing next to me talking to a guy over here, and I'm talking to this guy. This guy says, I'm a Scientologist. I just, hang on a second. What is that? I pinned him down for about a half an hour, and for whatever reason, the name rang a bell. So he told me that I could go visit somebody who was a Scientologist, and they discuss it one day a week. Guy by the name of Frank Ogle in Woodbury, New Jersey. By the way, you're from North Jersey, aren't you?
Yeah, Newark.
Newark, yeah. Okay, so I go to this place, and he would have little classes where he'd talk about communication and various things. I went there for about 4 days in a month, like for a month, one day a week. And I thought, okay, I got it now. Another factor here. David, when he was born, was cursed with an asthma condition. That was the bane of his existence. I mean, as a little baby, sometimes he turned blue. He couldn't breathe out, and it was horrible to watch this. And I was the one who took care of that, just about totally. As a matter of fact, when he would have these attacks, I would take him to a pediatrician in Burlington, New Jersey, called Dr. Ziegler. He'd give him a shot of adrenaline. And I knew that giving a little kid a shot of adrenaline was not great. Okay? So I would try all kinds of home.
They didn't have inhalers back then?
They had inhalers, but that's handling the symptom, not the cause. And I didn't know what to do to handle the cause.
Right.
I used to do shit like one winter, he's just in a full-blown attack, turning blue. It's in cold Jersey, cold Jersey winter. I took him upstairs to the bathroom, took off his clothes, took off mine, stood in the shower, said, David, I'm not punishing, man. I'm with you. I had the warm water on. I turned it off. That water's coming out of there about 34 degrees. He started breathing, kicked it, wiped him down with a Turkish towel. That handled it for the moment. I used to do shit like that, anything to handle him. So now I found out about Scientology from this Nelson Sandy, and Frank Ogle was the guy. I took David down one day, and I said, is there anything you can do for David with Scientology auditing, which is basically another word for counseling?
Right.
He took David in, and 45 minutes later, Dave comes out. I say, hey, how's it going? He says, Dad, I'm handled. And he never had another severe attack in his entire youth. He had
How is
some
that possible?
with communication.
With communication, you can stop asthma?
You come to the point where you have a realization, maybe where it started or how you could be contributing to it, or maybe where it starts kicking in.
How old was he when you brought him in there?
I guess he was about 9 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so like what tools did they use to help him kick asthma?
That communication.
But what do you like? The just communication, like, hi, what's going on? You got asthma,
Well,
buddy?
no,
That's communication. Like, what do
Yeah.
you mean by communication?
Okay, he used what's called creative processing, which
Okay.
is something that they used to use. And what it is you figure out how you could be contributing to that, and then you do a mental image picture of something that you think you're doing to contribute to that. And back and forth. It's a little For me to try to explain it in a little session like this, it's a little hard because, well, it's a little hard to understand. But it did work on him.
So you're saying in some sense, asthma may be psychosomatic and maybe in your head?
For him, it was
For
to
him.
that degree, yes.
Okay.
I am saying
and he
that.
never got asthma again.
He never had a severe attack again. He had minor attacks.
But he was
used
able to stop them with these
He used to get
methods?
attacked so bad that it would debilitate him. I mean, he was out of school for a week one time with an asthmatic attack. This is before I ever took him to see Frank Ogle.
Mm-hmm.
And that impressed me. The fact that this handled that for the moment anyway. So with that and some other things, I decided I'm going to get my whole family in Scientology. Because look, his whole life, that was a problem for me to handle. And this, at least at that moment, got him to the point where he was like in charge of it. It didn't happen to him again that severe.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense.
Yeah.
So that's what persuaded you to begin.
Quite a bit.
So everything was good for a while.
Right. I got in. I'll tell you how good it was. I got in, and my whole family got in. I decided to take my whole family to England, and in 1972, I moved there for a year and 3 months and had the whole family study Scientology.
In England?
Yeah. Yeah, and then came back for a little while and went over again in 1974, study more Scientology. When I was there that time, I got a recording deal with the Polydor Company, solo album, and I got a writer's contract with Chappell's Publishing, and I got asked to play on BBC. All this is in the book, by the way. I'll give you
So
details on
this
it.
was all while L. Ron Hubbard was alive?
While he was alive, yeah.
Did you meet him?
Never met him. Nope.
But your son did?
Listen, my son joined the Sea Organization when he was 16 years old. Within 7 months, he was working with L. Ron Hubbard.
What is this? The Sea Organization is... explain that to people.
Okay. There are several different ways that you could do Scientology. The number one way would be is if you're a public person and you just go into an organization. They're called orgs. You go in and you buy services, but you live in the outside world. You have a job, you have a home, you know, all these things, but you pay for a service. That's number one. Another level would be that you worked for an organization and you could sign a 2.5-year or a 5-year contract to work there, and you
Don't
would
they have like billion-year contracts too?
Well, no, wait, you're getting ahead of it. That's public. That's working for an organization on the level of a 2.5 or a 5-year contract. The last step would be the Sea Organization. There, you sign a billion-year contract. In other words, you're signing away your future lives to get this Scientology disseminated.
Has anybody ever challenged one of those billion-year contracts? Like, what does it mean? Like, do you
That
owe
when
them
you
anything
die,
for a
you
billion years?
listen. You're getting the skinny, and as hard as this is to believe, once you're in it for a while and you see that this is helping you and maybe your family, the point of it is that they want to get this disseminated to every man, woman, and child on the planet and improve life for everybody. So it's like you're on this crusade to get it disseminated.
So they believe they're doing this to help people.
Yes. Well,
All sounds good, right? All sounds good in the beginning.
well, it reads better than it lives. It's not that way at all, though.
What? Well, how is it?
How is it? I'll tell you. These days, right now, like,
Sure.
they get people to donate money to what's called the International Association of Scientologists, or donate money to build an build a new church someplace, and they give you a piece of paper and commend you. You know, it's a nice business, low overhead. You know,
So you give them money, they give you paper.
they give you a commendation or saying you're
Some
this or
level, right? You've achieved
Well,
some
yeah,
success.
the thing is, look, they've opened a lot of new buildings, but Joe, there's not people in there. There's air, okay? But they say we're expanding. They're expanding their real estate interests, but they're not expanding the number of people in Scientology.
Why is that?
Well, if you go on the internet, you can find out all the abuses they've done, like people going bankrupt because they had to contribute so much money they get a second and third mortgage on their house, give it to the church, they can't afford it, they have to declare bankruptcy, people being disconnected from their families.
Yeah, let's talk about that. And I want to go back to the Sea Org thing for
Okay.
a second, but then let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So the Sea Org thing is your son joins the Sea Org when he's 16 years old?
Yeah, here's what happened. I came home from work one day, and he's laying in in his room on his bed, kind of like that, with his head in his hands. I says, "Hey, Dave, what's up, man?" He says, "Dad," he says, I don't want to go to school anymore." He says, "Why not?" He said, "Listen, all the kids are taking drugs. They don't show the teachers any respect. They're not willing to learn anything." He says, I want to join the Sea Org. I want to help L. Ron Hubbard." Because by this time, we've been to England twice. He's trained to be an auditor. An auditor is a person who applies this technology of Scientology in auditing or counseling, okay? And he says, "This is what I want to do." Well, I thought to myself, he's 15, he's going to be 16 shortly. I thought, look, when I was 17, I joined the Marines. My dad had to sign for me because I was only 17. And it probably was one of the best moves I ever made. I mean, the first night in boot camp, I said to myself, this is the worst fucking mistake I've ever made in my life. At that moment. 12 weeks later, I said to myself, I can make myself do anything. And in that 12 weeks, it turned me from an undisciplined civilian into a disciplined Marine. And I've utilized that my whole life. It's helped me always. I kind of looked at that and I thought, well, I was 17. Maybe it looked like I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I come out a winner. And if David wants to do this, and what is he going to get out of going to school? And he has no desire to do anything else. I said, okay, I'll help you. So that was it. So when he was 16, the next day, we put him on a plane. He went down to the Flag Land Base in Florida. And as I say, within, I think it was 7 or 8 months, he was working right with L. Ron Hubbard out in California.
The Sea Org, like, is it a boat? You're actually on a boat?
No. The Sea Organization is a term used because in 1967, Ron started what he called the Sea Project, where he bought this ship and invited people to come with him to contribute to this project, saying that his research could be done better away from land masses. I mean, in fact, the law was after him. You know that.
Right. It was a tax thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, they were trying to snag him, and when you're out in international waters, they can't serve you a subpoena. But it was such an adventure story.
Right.
And people
it's
look,
clever.
Hey, look at.
Plus, you get to wear a captain's outfit.
No, not everybody.
He got to, right?
Oh, yeah. Admiral, not captain.
Did he give himself medals?
L. Ron Hubbard?
Yeah.
You know, I never saw that. All I saw was that he was considered the Commodore. Mm. But you remember the Peace Corps?
Yes.
All right, now that was an adventure, and people would go on that.
Sure.
But they actually were doing something, though.
Right. What was the Sea Org doing?
Well, the Sea Org was on this ship, and they'd have people come there for advanced level services, get that, and they would send missions out to various organizations to correct any outnesses in the way maybe they were delivering the technology or fix something that was going wrong. Mm-hmm. It was run like a little military organization. And then the Sea Org went ashore and they established the Flag Land Base in Clearwater, Florida. So that is still referred to as Flag. Yeah, when L. Ron Hubbard had the ships, that was considered the flagship.
Okay.
Am I filling you in enough on this?
Yeah. So he joined that. He ascended through the ranks. He's working with L. Ron Hubbard.
Yeah.
And slowly you guys get disconnected? Is that what happens?
No. As a matter of fact, when he was doing that, we were still in very good communication with each other. Like, I'm telling you something. We had a lot of great times together when he was growing up. There's no two ways about it. And I can't say that it was like bad relationship in any way. There was a guy by the name of Lord Acton. He was a Britisher. He was a member of Parliament. He lived from 1834 to the early 1900s. He's the one that made the observation, power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And I think this is what happened to David. That when L. Ron Hubbard died, he saw a chance to move up, and he got people out of the way who didn't want to cooperate with him, put people on various posts that would cooperate with him, and he took over the ownership and the leadership of Scientology. And what contributed to that was an incident where he had a severe asthmatic attack, and they had to take him to the emergency room of a hospital. Paul Grady is the guy that took him there. And when Paul picked him up after they did the stuff, they handled him, he was okay. David said to Paul, listen, I had a great realization when I was there, and it's this. Power is not granted. It is assumed. So he assumed the leadership of Scientology, and he rose right to the top. That's how that happened.
So how did you get disconnected from him?
Well, look, there was an event that he had, not an event, there's something that he did which he'll always be admired for. He actually got the Church of Scientology tax exemption. All right? He literally got the IRS to grant the fact that this is a church. You have now a tax exemption. People contribute to it, can deduct it. That was a very, very big win. That then gave him power, okay? I decided to join the Sea organization in 1985. I wanted to contribute to doing whatever I could to help him. I joined the Sea organization, and I'm at the Hemet base, I'm coming out of the music studio because since I was a musician, I worked in the music studio, and we did films. I composed music for various technical films we had or public relations films. And I walked out of the studio one day, and I saw him a little distance off to the left with an entourage. And I yelled out, "Hey, Dave!" And he turned around and he looked at me. And I'm telling you, Joe, he gave me a look that I thought, I better never do that again. On that base, I was then a staff member. The fact that I was biologically his father, and in fact, his father, he referred to me as Ron when he spoke to me. When he sent me a gift for my birthday or Christmas or something, he always said, "Dear Dad." But that was the beginning. Now, the further on down the road we got, the more it became, I used to have to call him sir after a while, okay? It became more and more me, Ron Miscavige, the staff member, and David, the leader of the church. Once they started implementing the rules at the base where you couldn't send a letter out without it being checked, where you surrounded with barbed wire pointing in and pointing out, you couldn't talk on the telephone without having somebody listen. You couldn't drive off on your own to go to a store to get a fucking pair of underwear. You had to order it on the internet. If you got on the internet, there was a filter on it where anything about Miscavige or Scientology came up, you'd be blocked. So now I'm living a sequestered life, waking up in the morning, going to breakfast at 9 o'clock, 9:30 having a muster. You know what a muster is?
No.
Okay, you line up your people and account for everybody. All right? 12 o'clock, go to lunch. 12:30, line up for another muster. Go to work in the afternoon. 5 o'clock, go to dinner. 5:30, go to another muster. And then work the rest of the night. Or sometimes 9:30 or 10 o'clock, have another muster. That was my life, 7 days a week, except on Saturday you'd work on the grounds to beautify the base.
Doesn't sound like a good time, Ron.
It's a gray existence, Joe. I'm
Is
telling you. How would you like to live that way?
It doesn't sound good.
It wasn't
Were
good.
you stuck?
Well, here's the thing. There were enough times when I did things that were good, like we would do an album. And as a matter of fact, here's something we did. I first got in, and there was a book that came out called Mission Earth that L. Ron Hubbard wrote. Edgar Winter. You remember Edgar Winter or no?
Edgar Winter, Johnny Winter's brother?
Yes.
The musician?
The musician, the
Yeah.
rock guy.
Yeah.
Okay, Edgar came to the base, and we did an album. I played on the album with him.
Edgar Winter came
Yeah.
to the... Wow.
He was a Scientologist.
He was?
He probably still is.
Wow. One of them's dead, right?
Johnny's dead. Yeah, Johnny's dead. But Edgar, I mean, he was... You have no idea how good he is until you see him operate in the studio. Anyway, I played the trumpet parts on the album. I played solos and some of the stuff. The album, that was what I did, and it was a great time. Bust your ass working, but that's a good time.
Right.
Isaac Hayes, I used to do gigs with him. You know, of course, you know how
Sure.
Isaac Hayes is. Great guy, and those were fun times. There were other things that we did that turned out good. But then there's time in between where you're working sometimes days on end with, a couple days, no sleep. Working your ass off. And if you screwed up, it was hell to pay.
Like,
okay?
what kind of work is being done? What is all the work?
Okay, I'll give you an example. There's about 6 major events that are done by the church every year. There's in New Year's, there's a major event, okay? Mm-hmm. And then in March, you have L. Ron Hubbard's birthday. And then in May, you have Dianetics.
What do you guys do for L. Ron's birthday?
Well, there would be an event where show him in various aspects of life, improving life in some aspect, and we'd have a video on that, and we would have to write music for that. Cine would have to shoot the pictures or take old pictures and produce these, edit them. We'd do music for it, and we'd have a product. So at an event, when David's doing the event, they could present this. For when the anniversary of Dianetics, Modern Science, and Mental Health, that was another event.
Okay.
And then
so you're preparing for events, essentially.
All the time. When you'd end one, you'd have to start the next one. In June, you have the anniversary of the maiden voyage. That was something we did every year. And then there's Auditors Day in August, all right? And then there's the International Association of Scientology event in October.
So all this time you're just constantly working, you're never hanging out with your son, you don't have any quality time together?
Sometimes he would come to the base for 2 months and wouldn't even give me a phone call. Look, Joe, you got to understand, I wish the fuck this didn't turn out this way, okay? Just straight up.
So do you feel responsible in any way for bringing him in?
Well, everybody deals with life the way they deal with it. My other son isn't that way, and my daughters aren't that way.
Is your other son Scientology as well?
He's out of Scientology now.
Did he quit with you?
He quit earlier than me.
And what about your daughters?
They're in.
They're in.
Yes.
And if you disconnected from them?
They're disconnected from me.
Right. You're not allowed to. They're not allowed to talk to you.
Well, here's what happens though. If they were to talk to me, their friends would disconnect from them. If you have a job with a Scientology employer and they found out that you talked to me, you'd get fired that day. It's insidious. It spreads out. The penalty for talking to